Hi, everybody. Well, I just heard the sad and shocking news that Jeff Beck has passed away at the age of 78. Jeff Beck, just an absolutely amazing guitar player. I always say that he's a guitar player's guitar player, and he never achieved quite the level of commercial success as some of his peers from that era, like Jimmy Page or Eric Clapton, but he was just a phenomenal guitarist and a highly influential, hugely influential guitar player. I mean, if you, gosh, any guitar player from the 60s, 70s, 80s, even, modern times, but especially guitar players from the 70s, they all cite Jeff Beck as an influence. I mean, Richie Blackmore or Michael Schenker. I mean, he is just held in the highest regards by so many players, and for good reason, because Jeff was an amazing player with a really unique voice, and he was a guitar player that could play almost anything. And he's one of the when you a lot of times when people are thinking about great guitar players, things revolving around technique come up, and certainly Jeff Beck had amazing technique, but for me he was one of those players that he could just play one note and you knew it was him. He had that such a unique voice, and really a voice to me. When I think of his playing, I think of it like a singer, like a voice, the way a singer has a recognizable voice. And I really think that he had that with his guitar playing, and he had it like basically right from the beginning. And I say he was a guitar player's guitar player because he did so many different things, and he did the fusion stuff, he did the blues stuff, he did the hard rock stuff. That he was just able to do almost anything. And I had just watched, I'd seen a video, I don't even remember what it was from. He was on like a talk show, and he grabs his guitar and he starts playing Little Wing, and it's just, again, he had such a voice. And the way he later in his career didn't even use a guitar pick, he played with his fingers, so that gave it even more of like a sound. And the way he was able to, just the way he bent notes, reminded me a lot of ways of like BB King. BB King is another guy that can just play one note and you know that it's him, and he has a very vocal style. And I always think of that with Jeff Beck, the way he bent his notes and his phrases and his lines were just so melodic, so effortless. He had so much melody and everything to his playing. So I grabbed the Jeff Beck albums that I have in my collection here. I don't have everything by him. He's somebody that has played with a ton of people. I mean, most recently he played on Ozzy's Patient Number 9 album. And he's just played with tons of people. He's done tons of different things. He's won all kinds of awards and everything for his playing. But these are some of the albums that I have in my collection. I do want to say the album that I don't have here, which was the first album that I had heard from Jeff Beck, was the Truth album, which came out in 1968, which is really early, with Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood on it. And at the time, I was sort of going back and discovering this. As I was like a teenager, got it on cassette and was going back and discovering. I remember I got Wheels of Fire, Cream, and was sort of discovering Eric Clapton. I had heard so many guitar players that I really liked, like Richie Blackmore, talk about Jeff Beck, and I was like, okay, I've got to get something. And I got Truth, and it was a little hard for me to understand some of the stuff that was going on the record, but I just immediately, like, his guitar tone and his phrasing and his playing really jumped at me. Shapes of Things, You Shook Me, which shows up on the first Led Zeppelin album, and Beck's Bolero, where you hear a little bit of what Jimmy Page took from the Yardbirds, because Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page were in the Yardbirds. And I do have this Jeff Beck with the Yardbirds record here. And when I think of those and I did a video on my channel of, I forget what I titled it, the history of hard rock or something like that. And I mentioned the Yardbirds and I mentioned how important they were. And those were really the three guys, you know, Page, Clapton, and Beck. And then if you want to throw in Jimi Hendrix come along, the big, like four, original big four guitar players for me, and maybe Leslie West in there also. But, you know, definitely Beck, Page, and Clapton, you know, coming from the Yardbirds. And I always felt like he was the best musician out of all those guys. He was the best, most accomplished guitar player. And like I mentioned earlier, it was always just a shame that he never achieved quite the commercial success maybe that the other guys, Page and Clapton, did. You know, I think maybe when he did People Get Ready with Rod Stewart, you know, I remember that got played a lot on MTV. And but it just a phenomenal player. And my favorite era from him is the fusion stuff. Like these two albums, Blow by Blow and Wired, are just incredible records. And really early, early on doing this type of thing, this kind of fusion guitar. And in a lot of ways, he was like the first. You know, we would see these sort of in the 80s guitar albums being put out, and he was doing this, you know, way back here. And there's just fantastic fusion, blues, jazzy playing on here. Again, the tone and everything. Lead Boots. Let me put my glasses on here. I know Scatterbrain is one I really loved here from Blow by Blow. Goodbye Pork Pie Hat. I remember seeing a transcription of that in a guitar magazine, and then I went out and got this, and I was floored because I had only known Jeff Beck from that Truth cassette that I had, and I was like, whoa, this is like, holy cow. And I remember thinking that it was like, came out much later than it did, and I was shocked when I learned like how early these records came out, how far ahead he was of everybody else. Blue Wind, boy, just great stuff. Cause We've Ended as Lovers. Just absolutely fantastic guitar playing. I have Beckola here, which had a lot of cover songs on, like All Shook Up and Jailhouse Rock, but Spanish Boots is just great. Rice Pudding is really cool. Here's another live one. It's great from that sort of fusion era that he was in. And then, again, he's just played on so many people's records and done so many different things. But this one here, Beck Bogart on a Piece, is just fantastic, hard-driving rock. Just great stuff on here. Black Cat Moan, their version of Superstition, Sweet Sweet Surrender. I mean, just a great, hard-driving, hard-rocking album. So this is a real tragic loss when I think of the founders of hard rock guitar playing. He is one of those. He's one of the people that I think of. So this is a really tragic loss. We've lost a really unique, innovative voice on the guitar. So Jeff Beck, rest in peace.